Good morning. It's good to see everyone out. Well, I think you all can see the title, Mental Health, a Biblical Perspective. So a little background on why I chose to talk about this subject. As I'm in the military, and I'm sure a lot of you as well are in your business, in the businesses that you work in, you have a lot of ongoing training that you go through. And every year we do tons of training in the military on various different subjects, and I see some of the people smiling that are in the military. They understand. But some of those trainings that I've recently gone through are suicide prevention, sexual harassment, mental mindfulness, and it got me thinking, what's the common thread in all these trainings? And it's kind of, an area of mental health. And so I got to thinking about that, and then I came across some statistics that I'd like to share. 18% of adults have mental health condition. That's over 43 million Americans. Nearly half have a co-occurring substance abuse disorder, and 9.6 million experience suicidal ideation. So we can see that this is a common problem for many people in this country. And I wanted to kind of look at what the Bible has to say about this subject, and what can we do to strengthen our minds and help us along with this life that we're stuck in at this moment. So again, as I stated, it's not hard to see that we as a nation have a serious mental issues that aren't being fixed. Today, I want to look at mental health from a biblical perspective. Does the Bible even address this issue? Does this mental health come from God or from man? If it does come from God, how do we obtain mental health? I submit to you that it does. After all, what we just read in Romans 12, 1 through 2, says that we must renew our minds. Do we not have to renew the way we think once we become Christians? Sorry, technical difficulties here. Thank you. The keyboard's out of battery. All right, so again, as I said, do we not have to renew the way we think once we become Christians? And again, as we read in Matthew 12, 1 through 2, I appeal to you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual worship. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what the will of God is, what is good and acceptable and perfect. All the things or all the sins that we struggle with as earthly beings start in the mind. We must maintain self-control. Self-control is obviously a mental thing. It's something that we need to overcome mentally. It's not like our bodies just decide to go do something and we're along for the ride. We decide what we are going to do, and then we go and do it. We decide what we're not going to do, and then we don't do it. We cannot transform our bodies without first controlling our minds. And in 2 Timothy 1 and 7, for God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control. So this is a spirit that God gave us. This is something that He gave us from the beginning, was a spirit of self-control. So God is expecting us to use what He gave us in the way that He would have us to use it. And also in Romans 7:25, thanks be to God through Jesus Christ our Lord, so then I myself serve the law of God with my mind, but with my flesh I serve the law of sin. So here we see that He Himself serves the law of God with His mind. But the adverse of that is, if we serve out of our flesh, then we're not serving God, we're serving out of sin. So we can see that self-control is a mental thing, and we do have control over our minds. But part of that is transforming our minds through love. It's one of the ways we were able to accomplish this. We love God with our minds. In Matthew 22:37, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. So we see here that love is not just from the heart, it's also from the mind. It's something that we think about and something that we actively do. And in the end, don't we always do what we just love to do? So that's what we need to train ourselves to do, is to take what we loved as fleshly members of this world and change that into spiritual members of God's realm and His world, and do what He would love and have us to do. In Proverbs 3 and verse 5, he tells us to trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. So we see here that part of transforming our minds is to get into the Word. How can we know what He has to say about it? We can't get that from ourselves. We have to get into His Word and read it and understand it. When we love someone, we trust them, and trusting in God's Word and God's way and God's wisdom. As earthly creatures, we must battle against the flesh. In 2 Corinthians 10, verses 4 through 5, for the weapons of our warfare are not of the flesh, but have divine power to destroy strongholds. We destroy arguments and every lofty opinion raised against the knowledge of God, and take every thought captive to obey Christ. So this isn't a physical battle that we're in, it's a mental battle. This is why we need to have this mental strength and this mental health to fight this battle. Again, the battle against Satan and sin and evil is all in the mind. What our minds choose to do, so our bodies will follow. Romans 7:22 through 25, for I delight in the law of God in my inner being, but I see in my members another law, waging war against the law of my mind and making me captive to the law of sin that dwells in my members. Wretched man that I am, who will deliver me from this body of death? Thanks be to God through Jesus Christ our Lord. So then I myself serve the law of God with my mind, but with my flesh I serve the law of sin. Without God's help, we cannot win this battle. We must prepare for that battle, though. How do we prepare for that battle? Well, we can turn to 1 Peter 1, verses 13 through 14. Therefore, preparing your minds for action and being sober-minded, set your hope fully on the grace that will be brought to you at the revelation of Jesus Christ. As obedient children, do not be conformed to the passions of your former ignorance, but as He who called you is holy, you also be holy in all your conduct, since it is written, you shall be holy, for I am holy. So we need to prepare our minds for action. So how do we do that? Isaiah 26 and verse 3 tells us we need to dwell on God. Philippians 4 through 9, let God guard your hearts and minds. 1 Corinthians 2, 11 through 16, we know God's mind through His revelation. The God of this world blinds the minds of unbelievers, and that's found in 2 Corinthians 4 and verse 4. And we need to set our minds on things above. So I'd like to go back to this idea in 1 Corinthians 2 and verse 11. And before we go to 1 Corinthians or Colossians 3, we'll talk about 1 Corinthians 2 and verse 11 if you turn there. For who knows a person's thoughts except the spirit of that person which is in him? So also, no one comprehends the thoughts of God except the Spirit of God. Now we have received not the spirit of the world, but the Spirit who is from God, that we might understand the things freely given us by God. And we impart this in words not taught by human wisdom, but taught by the Spirit, interpreting spiritual truths to those who are spiritual. The natural person does not accept the things of the Spirit of God, for they are folly to him, and he is not able to understand them because they are spiritually discerned. The spiritual person judges all things, but is himself to be judged by no one. For who has understood the mind of the Lord so as to instruct him? But we have the mind of Christ. So there's a lot in this text that I want us to kind of look at real quick. No one comprehends the thoughts of God except the Spirit of God. We can't understand those things without reading the Bible. That's not something that's just going to be given to us. We have to get into His Word. We have to study it. So one of the ways that we can prepare ourselves is to study His Word. We impart this in words not taught by human wisdom, but taught by the Spirit. One of the questions I asked at the beginning was, how do we get this mental health? Do we get it from man or do we get it from God? Well, God gives us here, has taught us, and we impart this in words not taught by human wisdom, but taught by the Spirit. So this is a wisdom that we get from God, not from man. And then in Colossians 3, 1 through 2, set your mind on things above. If then you were raised together with Christ, seek first that are above. Seek the things that are above, where Christ is seated at the right hand of God. Set your mind on the things that are above, not on things that are upon the earth. So one of the ways that we prepare ourselves is to set our minds on things above. So this is the process. We die to sin in Colossians 3 and verse 5. For you have died and your life is hidden with Christ. And then in 3, 8 through 9, we put off the sins: anger, wrath, malice, blasphemy, filthy language, lying. These are the things we are to put off. And then we are to put on godly attributes in 3 verses 12 through 15. Tender mercies, kindness, humility, meekness, long-suffering, bearing with one another, and forgiving one another. One of the things that I always like to say is, our minds are like a sponge. It's going to be filled with something. And so when we do live as the world lives, that's full of fleshly desires. When we become Christians, we put off those sins. That's what we are charged to do, is put those things off. Well, how many of you can just not think of anything? And wives, don't answer this question. How many of you can just sit there and just not have a thought in your mind at all? I don't think that's very common for really anyone. And so the point is that our minds are going to be filled with something. And so if we put off sins, what we have to fill that with is godly attributes, His Word, the way He would have us live. And then we will be filled with the Word, and our actions will reflect that. Colossians 3, 16 through 17, let the word of Christ dwell in you richly in all wisdom, teaching and admonishing one another in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing with grace in your hearts to the Lord, and whatever you do in word or deed, do all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God and Father through Him. So this is one way that we can put on those things, is through songs, hymns, and spiritual songs, which is one of the things we do as we come together each and every Lord's Day. So this has been a quick sermon, but I think we have addressed some serious concerns that we have as Christians, the things that we need to put off and the things that we need to put on. As we see, the world is losing its mind, and as a result, it's losing the battle against Satan. We have the best guide for mental health if we will just use it. That is God's Word. And hopefully these points today will stir us up into thinking about God's mental health for us and challenge us to strengthen our minds. So it is at this point that we offer the invitation this morning. And, this is something we do every time we give a lesson. But we really need to consider how important it is that we give this opportunity, this invitation, if you will, to come forward. This is an opportunity, as it pertains to this lesson today, to tap into the mental strength that only God can provide. We can assist you with that if you would come forward. If your mind has been weak and you need to seek public forgiveness for something that you have done publicly, we can also assist you with that. If you would, come forward as we stand and sing.